Niggas mad cause I'm about to bag. Never bag.
All right, well, shoot. My topic was basically the, parental trauma and its effects on their children into adulthood. You know what I mean? Like growing up as a kid, you think your parents know everything. They got the game sold up. They got a playbook. They got a game. They got a game plan for everything. You know what I mean? But in reality, they're just humans just like us, bro. You know what I mean? They just figuring it out as they go. They don't have everything set in stone. They don't have anything to read from, a list to check off, or anything like that to actually know in which trajectory to go. You know what I mean? So a lot of the things that they do maybe just because, they think it's best for you or whatever, or it's best for the situation, but it might not be. You know what I mean? So it can affect you negatively going forward into the future, you know what I mean, into your adulthood or whatever. Like, I'll give you an example. Like, my mom and my dad, you know what I mean, they expect oversharing, like, profusely, consistently, you know what I mean, like, incessantly. Like, they want oversharing. They want to know as much of your business as possible. But, you know what I mean, me being an adult now or whatever, you know what I mean, being married or whatever, being on my own, doing all my own things or whatever, I'm just realizing, like, that's not necessary, you know what I mean? No one really should have that much influence or, you know what I mean, knowledge of your life or whatever outside of the people that you want to have it, or outside of your relationship, your marriage, your kids, whatever, you know what I mean? So it's like, now, like, with me being an adult, I expect oversharing from others when that's wrong. You know what I mean? That's a flaw and that's a fault in myself, in which, I got to learn to correct or whatever. You know what I mean? Because it's like when I ask certain questions from people, I'm like, well, I want to know everything. You know what I mean? But that's not none of my business, because you as a human being and an individual, you have every right to, you know what I mean, hold on to whatever information that you choose. You know what I mean? But I just feel like I'm owed that because my parents growing up, they felt like they were owed that. You know what I mean?
You don't really realize that your parents were just human until you get older.
Facts.
Because I know me personally, when I was little, I looked at both of my parents as like knowing fucking everything.
Me too.
And then I got older and I was like, y'all smart, but y'all ain't know everything. You know what I'm
right.
saying? You know what I'm saying? And that's okay. You know what I mean?
Right.
But the thing with our generation of parents, I don't know how old y'all folks are, but you know what I'm saying? Mines are both 55. So they come from a time, and they're West Indians, so they come from a time where it was way harder, and they probably weren't even like aware, like mentally aware of whatever, you know what I'm saying, traumas they were going through. It was just life for them. You know what I'm saying? And they probably weren't aware of whatever they were, passing on to me and my sister, or projecting onto me and my sister. But
because a lot of times it do be projections.
as adults, we got to be able to, like, if we as adults, I feel like we have to be able to pinpoint problems and issues in our life and try to get to the root of it. And if getting to the root of it means reflecting back on like your childhood and being aware of like, yo, or admitting to yourself like, yo, my parents or my family members used to do this and that made me feel away. It's up to us as grown-ass men to like acknowledge it and move forward from it.
And switch and change that narrative
and
for
change
ourselves.
the narrative for ourselves. Because I'm not going to hold y'all. There was a while, even when I'm still not really thinking about kids like that, you know what I'm saying? But a few years ago, I just had like this weird-ass thought one day, this anxiety-stricken thought of like me as like a father, you know what I mean? And it has nothing to do with my dad, because my dad is a pretty cool dude. But it's just like,
agreed.
It's, with anxiety, you think ahead, and ahead makes you a little fearful, and that's where the anxious feelings come from.
Right.
So I'll just be overthinking, like, damn, like what type of pops am I gonna be? Like, if I were to have a kid right now, would I be ready to like bestow some knowledge on this little nigga?
I don't think you'll ever know when you're ready, though. You know what I mean? And Don, I'm sure he could attest to that more than anybody.
I think everything in life is one decision at a time.
Yeah.
So if the decisions that you make on a regular basis you feel are in their best interest or healthy, then ultimately you'll be a good parent, I feel, because I mean, of course you can't, push what you want out of their life on them, but let's say you making day-to-day decisions like, okay, I'm weighing these options, okay, this is probably best for you. I'm gonna put you in this reading program. I'm gonna put you in this school over here. It's all of the decisions that you make that equal up to the parent that you are.
And
so
I feel
people
that.
look at things too vague,
too broad,
and just break it down to day to day, what are you doing? Are you getting up early? You feeding them the right
Right.
foods? Are you giving them the right habits?
I feel that because I'm not in that mental place anymore of like questioning myself of whether I'll be a good parent. I know I'm gonna be a good parent because without even knowing, I was already like thinking of them at certain points, like just like walking through wherever and just thinking like, yo, I put my son in this.
Right.
Yeah.
My main thing with when I have kids is to always provide them with opportunity,
Right.
and to provide them with opportunity, I gotta expose them to options. So.
Yep.
Facts.
You know what I'm saying? So I'm gonna put them in sports. I'm gonna put them in self defense. You know what
Right.
I'm saying? I'm gonna teach myself certain shit so I can take them to do certain shit that I wish I could have done growing up, but
Right.
you know, it just didn't pan out that way.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
That was well put, bro. You know,
Appreciate it.
complete agreement.
Y'all hit everything on the nail. The only thing I can say is like, my parents didn't give me as much opportunities as the next. You know what I'm saying? I grew up with two moms, so like, those times were like weird and taboo for them to even express themselves, whatever, in public. So, I mean, I didn't really get no opportunities. You know what I'm saying? Like, as far as direction, I mean, my mom was like, "Yo, just play sports." You know what I'm saying? Oh, go to college or get out the house. You know what I'm saying? It's very
Do
ultimate,
something.
ultimative love. You know what I'm saying? But the only thing I can say I got from my mom is like the hustling spirit. So that bitch is a hustler. You
So
know what I'm
do-
saying?
do you
You say bitch so casually, bro.
Yeah, like that
Bro,
threw me
I-
off. That
look,
threw me
I-
for a
look,
complete
no
loop,
funny
bro.
shit. I call my mom right now and be like, "Hey, mom, you on the corner right now?" And she be like, "Yeah, I'm shaking some ass right now."
Hustling it up.
I'm shaking some ass right now. Yeah, I love you,
But-
mom.
Do y'all feel like y'all have, like now being in adulthood, do y'all feel like y'all have brought any like negative, you know what I mean, things that you may have learned as a kid or any traumatic experiences that you had as a kid into your adulthood, into like how you live and, you know, maneuver through your life now?
I guess a lack of information is just as bad as the trauma too, because it can hinder you in the way that you see things and perceive life. So that's why I try to also like keep myself aware of things that are going on and how I can give them knowledge now that can, you know, translate later on. Because it isn't always trauma. It's just like not knowing. Because if we
Yeah.
would have knew to buy some damn Apple stock in 2003, you would be up like $100,000, you know, off of a few stocks. So it's like small stuff that could propel your child forward.
Just having that knowledge.
Yeah.
To piggyback off of what you just said about like the Apple stocks and just knowing, I remember me and you having a conversation like a while, like sometime last year. I think it was like the day we all went out, like before your wedding at the Grain.
Okay.
And we was
yeah.
talking, and I was like, because we was talking about like stocks and how I was about to finish school. And I remember telling you, I was like, we both said it was like, bro, if we knew what we knew now, probably wouldn't even went to ODU.
Oh, most
Right.
definitely.
Like if they would have like really pressed like the idea of like getting a trade and shit like that in high school
Yep.
as much as they did college,
yeah.
I probably would have did that and like created some type of business for myself. Because if you have a skill that's involved in service, then you always gonna eat.
Exactly.
Right? You can make a business off of that service. You know what
Would
I'm
have
saying?
never been
I
a
would've
part of
got
that
my-
debt system.
I would have got my real estate license at 18.
Mm-hmm.
Or I would have, because it was like we knew kind of some options, but we didn't, you know, they weren't placed here. And I feel like that's one of the best things you could do as a parent. Like, explain, all right, place all of these options out, because I didn't even know that you could just go get your real estate license at 18.
Yeah.
And by 27, you'll be done built up such a pipeline and network of people that you making six figures, you know?
And it only
So-
took 9 years.
Yep.
You know, it's like the only thing I wish they would have taught was like how to grow with your generation.
What you mean?
So, for example, that you do real estate, right? As you're growing up, you know what I'm saying? Let's say we did that. Real estate 2011, before social media blew up, right?
Right.
Mhm.
You word of mouth and everything, right? You start knowing the game of the internet, everything like that, right?
Yep.
As you're growing, 18 to 21, okay, you have a few friends getting married, they're getting houses here, right?
Right.
Then you start getting older. People are starting to feed into you because of what you build up, because they remember, like, oh, yeah, Don Daco
Right.
does have a real estate. We could definitely, that's the homie from high school. It's like, well, if you would have started that trade at 18,
Yeah.
you know, that subconsciously, when people got to that age, this time, they would have been like, "Oh yeah, no, fuck all that. Let's go with Don." 'Cause they would have
Right.
seen the progression.
Is
Yeah.
the
You know what I
growth.
mean?
That
So
growth.
that's why I mean, like, as far as growing with the generation, like an artist perspective, right? So an artist comes into the game, let's say like 16 or whatever, right? When Lil Wayne came into the game, he grew with the generation. You feel what I'm saying?
From
So
like
you can
14
use that
on up.
exactly. You can use that like at any type of trade, like if you, especially if you're in the trade of service.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like
You
if
know how to grow with your
exactly.
time.
You have a car
Get
dealer.
you.
You have a car dealership. You know, you have a little bunch of fancy cars, and then you're realizing, okay, the market is starting to go towards SUVs. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And if you hit that before then,
Right.
you're growing with, because like I was with my homie, right? Dude is shorter than me, right? I would think he had like a fancy ass car, and he pulls up on me in his fucking dad van, right? He said, "Nah, man, you gotta drive with life," and I was like, "That is so fucking deep." And I was like, I sit here, I got a fucking coupe that sits low as fuck, and I'm like, my hip. You know what I'm saying?
Getting old out here.
Damn, my hip, nigga. You know, like a course that taught the generation, like, what's going on now? Because news ain't focused on the now. They're just focused on the biggest thing. What's the most, like, what's going on
What's
now?
going to get people's eyes on it?
I think that's the
Right.
problem with school too. It's like even though they're integrating iPads and stuff like that, they're not really teaching you the things that can progress you the furthest.
Right.
Financial literacy, really going into not the health class tell you about, you know, diseases and things of that nature, but it's not telling you, all right, yeah, this red meat causes cancer. I ain't never hear that in health class. You know,
But they said we got to eat steak, though.
Yeah.
Right. Because honestly, having them iPads on the MacBook don't mean shit if you teaching me a white.
you still typing the same way.
If you teach that, and if you teaching me a whitewashed version of when the Pilgrims and the fucking settlers came through.
Right.
And that remind me of a story. Like this lady wouldn't let her kids go to a certain school because they taught about Columbus Day. You know what I mean?
I
And
mean,
only for the simple fact that they taught Columbus Day, she was like, "Yeah, my kids aren't going there. Y'all lying to them."
The people that conquered are going to tell their side though.
Oh, of course.
So it's like we expect them to tell history, you know, the
right way.
in between. No, they're not. Nobody has ever done that conquered another people.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, we as the fucking students,
That's why we have to be in charge.
as kids, like, you expecting to, like, you know what I mean?
Learn actual
Yeah.
facts.
And again, it's not until you become adult that you realize that it was nonsense.
Niggas mad, cause I'm by the bag. Never bag.